I'm Captain Logan.
And I am Vince.
And it's time once again
to recommend things!
Vince, what do you recommend today?
I recommend a movie. Not just any movie, a specific movie. I recommend Dawn of the Dead. Not just any Dawn of the Dead, the 1978 Ultimate Edition of Dawn of the Dead. This thing has pretty nifty packaging. It's kind of cool. It's George A. Romero's 1978 Dawn of the Dead.
Is that one of those cases that you pop open and you get your discs all over everywhere?
Yeah, actually.
I hate those kind of cases.
I hate these kind of cases, but it is a pretty case. And plus, they're pretty well cemented in there, at least the ones I have.
Oh, okay.
They have nice pictures and nice discs. And
you have the Angel box sets, right?
I have two of them.
Those were obnoxious. You remember that? You
I
pop
have-
those open and it's everywhere.
I have two of the new ones, actually, so I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, never mind. Go ahead.
But this has the U.S. theatrical version, the extended edition, and then the European version, and then some documentaries about the film. And personally, this is my favorite zombie movie. This one, the 1978 Dawn of the Dead. I don't care too much for the new Dawn of the Dead. I prefer this one above all other Romero zombie movies. I prefer Romero movies above all other zombie movies. So take that as you will.
How does it compare to Night of the Living Dead? Because I haven't seen it.
Night of the Living Dead is extremely depressing, and the characters.
I mean, I've seen that. I'm just saying I haven't seen this.
The thing about it is that Night of the Living Dead is so. Wait, you've seen Night of the Living Dead, but not this?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I've seen that, but I haven't seen this. That's why I want to know how it compares.
Well, this movie is a little more upbeat. You get to see a little more of the human element rather than people. You see, the thing about Night of the Living Dead is it all happens in one night, and it is just a horrible situation for these people to be in. So it's a very tense movie. But this one, these people hold up. I think that's the term. They manage to occupy a mall for a while, and you get to see these people enjoy each other's company. People who are shoved together by circumstance end up not exactly hating each other, but trying to thrive on each other's company. But then, of course, cabin fever, these type of things happen. These people are stuck in this mall, effectively. So it's interesting to see what people will do with consumer products when they're able to run amok with them. And that's, of course, what Romero was trying to get at with the commentary in this film, is the consumerism of the American culture. So I think the movie is worth checking out for... I think Romero's movies are worth checking out just for the
social commentary.
The social commentaries, the themes, all these type of things. And thank you. I couldn't think of the word social to save my life. But anyway, this thing also comes with the box set also comes with a mini Dawn of the Dead comic book published by IDW, and of course it's IDW because they license everything. Look for God the comic book to be coming out in June. and so I haven't read this.
You gotta hurry up and do that before they lose the license to Fox.
That would. So, oh, Fox. But I don't know. I don't know whether the comic book's good. I don't know whether it's that close to the movie. But it's an adaptation by Steve Niles. And if you don't know who Steve Niles is, he did 30 Days of Night and things of that kind. He does a lot of B-movie type horror comic books. And I don't know that I necessarily like Steve Niles touching Dawn of the Dead, but whatever. It's a comic book, and I have the movie, so he can do what he wants. But see, the European version and the American versions don't differ that much, but they have a very specific difference between them that makes me appreciate the European version just a little more. At the ending, they both have the same event that takes place at the end, but they have different music. The American version has very upbeat, very heroic type of music, which seems counterintuitive to what should be at that particular scene.
Is it counterintuitive on purpose? Is it that kind of thing, or can
I don't think so. I think it's supposed to be this is a good thing. These people are having a whatever. I'm not going to ruin the ending for you.
Sometimes that kind of thing is played out for creepy.
And I don't think it was supposed to be that way. I think that the event was supposed to speak for itself, and the European version very much so does that. So because it uses not necessarily depressing music, but more realistic music, or music that would be more realistic to what the actual tone of the scene would be. So I highly recommend this. If you're a big zombie fan and you haven't seen this, this needs to be at least, you need to at least give this a watch, because it's one of the the biggest zombie movies. I mean, it was Romero's second zombie movie. It was great. Anyway, what do you have to recommend, Jeff?
Today, I'm going to recommend a documentary that just came out last year called Secret Origin, the story of DC Comics. And I don't actually own this. I just got this on Netflix and finally watched it. I've been wanting to watch this for a while. I figured this being Secret Origin and it being all DC, that it would focus mostly on the early days of DC. And it does, but then it goes all the way up to current, kind of, although it kind of skims the last 10 years really fast. It makes a really big deal out of other decades, and there's like, oh yeah, and Smallville and some other things happen. So it's kind of what it does. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff in here that I knew already from watching other documentaries and interviews with comic creators and books I've read. But then there were some things I didn't know. I learned some things and had some things reinforced that I was never entirely sure of because the right people were interviewed. So then I had a better idea of what was going on with certain things. They have the same basic background of the creator of Superman that you usually get, but there's some added stuff I hadn't really seen before. I like how it's. I like how it's organized. Naturally, it goes progressively through the years, and it doesn't backtrack. It pretty much goes kind of decade by decade, and it focuses mostly on the big three. Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. But it's really good at also talking just about the industry as a whole. It doesn't just handle superhero comics, but it certainly talks about why they're prominent. You get the history when you get up into toward the end of the documentary. You get the history of the Vertigo imprint and some things like that. And they tell you how Sandman got started. And they tell you kind of how Neil Gaiman got started, and some other things like that. It's got a lot of Denny O'Neil, lots of interviews with Denny O'Neil, and he talks not just about Batman, but about other things he did. What's really funny is that he talks about how he ruined Wonder Woman in the 70s because he was. They focus a lot on how different writers. Well, some of them weren't, but especially when you get post the days of comics being just silly and fun entertainment. Once you get past World War II and people start getting a little bit more brooding about things, you see how they focus on each decade after that on how different writers are trying to make it more of a literary medium. And so Denny O'Neil was doing just that with Wonder Woman, trying to make her, in 72, I think 72, trying to make her more of a feminist character, trying to do a good feminist take on her. And ultimately it backfired, and all the feminists hated it. He took away her costume, he took away her superpowers. And in theory, what he was trying to do made sense, but those were the things that apparently the women at that point liked about Wonder Woman, and he took them away. So,
like Stan Lee with Daredevil. Oh, people are going to hate me because he's a blind superhero. And like, whatever. Yeah. It's cool. Do it.
Yeah, honestly, I think what would have worked better is if she was just, I was going to say if she was somehow just suddenly more popular. I don't know. Like I don't know exactly what you do to make Wonder Woman more likable. But just she's a strong female character that isn't just going along with whatever people at the time think Wonder Woman's supposed to do. Like for instance, after World War II, when this is a point that it makes that's really interesting that I hadn't really thought about before. After World War II, when all the men come back from the war, suddenly men want their jobs back that women are doing. And so, women were doing a lot of jobs that men traditionally did, and suddenly they all have to go back and be housewives because the men want their jobs back. And they did exactly that to Wonder Woman. They had her reflect that instead of go against the grain. So suddenly she was a secretary and things like that. And it was really interesting. I didn't know that. And then it also has an interesting take on why she, like in her earliest days, was tied up all the time, and why so many characters in her books got tied up and stuff like that. And apparently, the I don't remember his name, but the creator of Wonder Woman thought that somehow at that particular point that was actually empowering the women. That women were supposed to be submissive, so you were giving them power by having them do the thing they were supposed to do, and it was weird.
I read somewhere, and I don't know whether this is a fact or whether or not this was an accusation by Wortham, but I read somewhere that it was a it was the creator trying to impose as innocently as he possibly could and encrypted as he possibly could his own sexual fascinations into I think I may have just made up a word into his own sexual interests into reading material that was meant for children, essentially. So it could have been Wortham, or it could have been fact. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. But of course, Wortham in that period is covered, and that's done decently well. And I really like what they do with the '90s, because they make a point that is really valid. That and again, it's just a lot of it is just a lot of interviews with comic creators and people in the industry. So when I say that they make a point, I really just mean the people that they're interviewing. But a couple different people made the same point, and like people interviewed, like I said, there was Denny O'Neil, Lynn Weens in it. There's a lot of other people. But anyway, the point came up that in the '90s. Characters started getting morally ambiguous to the point of absurdity, where we wanted it to be more realistic in the sense that we wanted. This is a cool point that we needed. I think it was Frank Miller that said this that we need. Okay, Vince. That we needed a world that actually needed superheroes. That prior to the mid '80s, especially prior to his work, he felt like a lot of superhero comics set up a world that was kind of already perfect and didn't really need superheroes anyway. So why were they there? That's interesting. And then the world becomes a little bit more like it is. It's a little scarier. It's a little bit more. It's a little more violent. Now we need superheroes. And even though you don't like Frank Miller in a lot of things, you got to admit that he helped that with Daredevil, certainly.
Well, Frank Miller's done several, significant things for the medium. I'm not going to say he doesn't. So the existence of Frank Miller is validated.
But then the point was made that it got to the point in the '90s where some characters weren't morally ambiguous anymore. They were just plain evil. But the only way we knew who the heroes were was because their name was in the title. And I think there's some validity to that, and then they said that's where Kingdom Come comes in, where it's projecting the future of that idea and saying, hey, look, there's all these superheroes who were brought up without any kind of value system, and so they just fight for the sake of fighting. They're not fighting for anything. And so that was really cool. But anyway, enough about all that. It's definitely worth watching, and I enjoyed it, and I'm glad it got made. So
that sounds cool.
So there we go. Hey, thanks a lot for watching us recommend things. We were a little long-winded this week. We will recommend something for you once again next time. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Gus.
Thanks a lot. See you later. One, two, three, four. I declare an index finger war.
I win! That game was easy. Challenge me again.
Why do you cheat at every